What's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Instant Reaction, the debut episode for the 2024 season here on the Colts Audio Network and on YouTube. Finally, what everyone's been looking for. You can see Bill Brooks' face and my face as we talk about the latest Colts game. As always, I am joined by Colts Ring of Honor wide receiver Bill Brooks as we break down the Colts' latest game. Bill, on Sunday, the 2024 preseason got underway with a 34-30 loss to the Denver Broncos. I say this every year. That's the only time we're going to mention the score is in the open that we have here for the podcast, because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that the Colts lost this game. What matters, Bill, first and foremost, is that Anthony Richardson, for the first time in 308 days, put on a Colts jersey. He put on a Colts helmet. He took some snaps. He played 7 total snaps on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's start here. Bill, what did you see out of Anthony Richardson? And the answer could honestly be like, it's fine.
Well, what I saw at Anthony Richardson is like, I don't think it's anything great. It wasn't anything bad. I think he did a nice job out there when he had opportunity to go out there and play. He was 2 for 4. And then also the one play that I really, really liked was the pass he threw to Mo Alley-Cox. Is on time. He threw it right where Mo Alley could catch it, and also away from the defender to get Mo Alley to turn up the field to gain about 19 yards on that play. So I like what he did in that play, and he looked calm. He look like he had any jitters or anything for missing that much time from last year, coming into this year, playing his first game, getting back in the coach uniform, playing out there with his teammates. So he looked good, not bad, not great or anything. So I think it was a good performance by him. Hopefully next time he goes out there, he'll be better. But I think what you'll see a lot of him if you go up to Grand Park, Westfield this upcoming week. You'll see a lot of him in his joint practice against the Arizona Cardinals.
I mean, look, Bill, like we know this about preseason. You're not showing anything.
Very vanilla.
Think about last year, how that first game against Jacksonville, some of the run packages the Colts put in for Anthony, just some of the plays, like I think about that completion to Ogletree, the one to Downs, just like that stuff's not being put on film during the preseason. And then you think about week 2, those 2 rushing touchdowns Richardson had against Houston. There is no shot the Colts are going to put any of that on film in the preseason. So you're going out there, you're kind of shaking the rust off a little bit. You're going through your pregame routine and you're running this very vanilla offense. Now, I will give Anthony some credit in that after the game, he said, it doesn't really matter, Bill, like what's being called, if it's basic, whatever, you still want to go out and execute the play.
Exactly.
And he thought they left some stuff out there. They had the first incompletion he threw was an unblocked pressure on Richardson's right. He threw right at it, but he threw incomplete to Michael Pittman. I guess, Bill, I want to get your thoughts on this. Like when players talk about going through their pregame routine and just kind of getting out there, as someone who's done it before, what is the value of doing that in a preseason game with regards to not just Anthony Richardson, but Jonathan Taylor, who played in the preseason for the first time in his career on Sunday, a Michael Pittman Jr., Quentin Nelson, some of these guys who you think, yeah, maybe they don't need preseason, but they at least get it in this game. What's the value of that to them?
I think the value to them is, athletes are creatures of habit. They like to create a habit of knowing what's going to happen, what they're going to do, how their body's going to react when things come up. And getting into a habit of going through a pregame routine, getting in the locker room, knowing what time you have to go out there, getting dressed, knowing you go through your pregame warm-up, knowing what's going on, getting out there, the game starts, you get into the huddle, you hear the play, you hear the cadence, you break the huddle, you get to the line of scrimmage, you hear Anthony bark out the signals, checking it or not checking it, and then you execute the play, and you do it again, and you do it again. Players like to get into a habit, and that's, to me, the value of going out there playing. Also, you like to make sure that, for me personally, I like to get hit early on in preseason just to get a feel for it, knowing that this is what I can expect going forward once the regular season starts. So I think it's very important that the starters get out there and played. I'm sure Jonathan felt good just to get hit. I mean, you don't ever want to get hit. It sounds weird saying that, but just to go through the process of getting hit, getting back up, going back to the huddle, hearing the next play, and getting ready for the next play, no matter if he has to block or he has to run or run a pass route. So I think that's the value in going out there, playing in a preseason game and going through all the things you need to go through to get ready for the game.
I do think for Anthony, what he talked about is there was a little bit of just anxiousness to get out there. And I think every player probably feels that. But again, to go back to it, it's been 308 days since he last got out there and played. So I think, Bill, there was probably a little bit of a benefit for him to just get out there, spit the play calls out, be in the huddle, and feel the speed of a game before it's Houston in week 1. Like, just not to overemphasize that game, but like, that's a big game that the Colts start the season with. So even just, you can say, it didn't look very good, whatever. I don't think the results of this mattered to the extent that just the process of playing mattered. And then I do want to bring this up, Bill. He did run out of bounds. Like, it was a play where he didn't have any other choice, right?
No.
To go out of bounds on the far sideline on the second drive. But okay, hey, great. Like, practice what you need to do in the regular season. And on that play, I think it was a first down. And he got out of bounds, and there was no issue there. And Shane Steichen, when he got asked about it after the game, Bill, he just goes, "Yeah, that was great. That was great." He had kind of a grin on his face.
Yeah, it was great for him to get out of bounds, build some habits. Yeah, I think it was first down, if I'm not mistaken. He scrambled and looked down the field. There wasn't anything open. Saw there was an opening to the side. He ran to the sideline, get out of bounds. Okay, let's go to second down. Let's see what happens after on second down now. I can play. I'm not taking any unnecessary hits. I'm not throwing the ball into harm's danger. Just get ready for the next play. That was something that was smart and for him to do. I don't think it was anything. I mean, people talk about it because of everyone wants him to make sure that he stays healthy, to run out of bounds when there's nothing there, or slide when there's nothing there. You know what? He did it. He got out of bounds, stayed safe, got ready for the next play. So look, what the guys did to me in the first series and the second series, it has value for those guys going out there playing. It's going to help them moving forward. Now, you'll see a lot more, I think, like I said, in the joint practices, what those guys can do. Everything was a vanilla today. Just get out there, kind of knock some of the rust off and get ready. So for these guys, it was great to get out there. And, he said he felt some jitters, maybe because it's been 300 some odd days since he's played. When I played a whole season. The next season, the first time I get out there, I have jitters also.
Yeah.
And so he could have played the whole season. At least I did. And I still had jitters when I got back out there the following season. It's just a new thing that you haven't done since the previous year. You've practiced, but you haven't got out there and played against someone else. And, when you go out there and play against someone else, you're going to have jitters. And after the first couple of plays are over, you're right back into it.
This is why I like doing this podcast with you, Bill, because you can speak from a player experience. If it was just me, I would just be like, I totally had jitters doing my first PA read this year. I was talking to Lara Overton in the locker room. She was like, I had jitters doing my first TV hit of the preseason. And it's like, that is nothing compared to the jitters of like going out there and being like, I might get tackled on this play. That's totally different experience.
A little bit different. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Another thing I wanted to dig in with you here on this podcast was Adonai Mitchell playing in the slot. That's something that we saw in practice on Friday with Josh Downs being out with the ankle injury. We don't know. Shane Steichen would not put a timetable on it when we spoke to him this week up at training camp. But if Downs has to miss time during the preseason, if that extends into the regular season, is still TBD. The Colts getting Adonai Mitchell some work in the slot. I had a conversation with Adonai after the game, and he told me he's never worked in the slot before, but it's always been something he's wanted to do. But it's totally different as a guy who's used to playing on the outside to go in the slot. He's like, when you're on the outside, you're thinking it's one-on-one, it's man or it's zone, and maybe you'll get doubled on a play, but you don't have as much space to work with. In the slot, the way that he put it, I thought was great. He said, in the slot, it's all about boxes and triangles and operating within those. For a wide receiver to make that transition I don't think I really understand how difficult it might be to go from the outside to the inside. How difficult a transition is that? And what about A.D. Mitchell's skill set, Bill, could allow him to be an option there if Josh Downs does have to miss time this year?
Good question, JJ. The difference pretty much going from the outside to the inside, he was correct. On the outside, there's a lot of one-on-one. There's some zone sometimes, but you also might get double from a safety coming over the top to give some help to the corner. Inside the slot, you have to look at, now you have to deal with a linebacker. You have to look at the linebacker that's inside. Then you have to look at the guy that's over you. Or is the guy over you a linebacker, or is it a nickel back? So you have to look at those guys. So then now you're getting a look. And also when he mentions triangle, he's looking at the guy over him, the linebacker on the inside, and he's also looking at the safety over the top. So he's looking at those three guys. So the triangle, trying to figure out, okay, what type of defense are they playing? Is the guy, the safety on the top, is he going over? Is it cover two? Is he staying in the middle of the field? Is the guy on me? Is he going to jump inside? Is he going to jump outside? Is he going to play me head up? If he plays outside and plays zone, that's a linebacker. I have to worry about the linebacker if I have an inside route. So you have to look at all those different things. So there's a lot more going on the inside. But the one thing I think that benefits the receiver on the inside is he has a lot more room on the inside, meaning that he can go up, he can go all the way over the field, going on an over route, he can run a corner, he can run a post, he can run a quick, he can run an out, he can run a little hook, he can run a choice route. So there's a lot of routes that he can run on the inside. And I like to hear what Adonai say. They say it's boxes and triangles. So he understands what's going on the inside and trying to learn that. And I think for him, his skill set, I think, would suit him fine on the inside because he's quick. He has good movement at the top of the route to create separation from the linebackers or from a safety coming down. And I think he's very elusive and very smooth in his route. So I think it would help him. And I think, and that's not help him, I think he would be fit well in the slot area to play and sometimes and to be able to move outside. Now, if he can do both, that's what's going to help the offense out, because then Shane could say, okay, you stay in there, you're going to be outside this time. Okay, now we're going no huddle. Eddie, you can go inside and do something. And also, if they do have to go no huddle, instead of running all over the field and you only know one position, you have to go back to the other side. You can just switch positions. Other players can switch positions. Pitt could go in the slot and Alec could stay outside. So I think it benefits the team if you can know more positions like that. And then Shane could use his magic and flip-flop people all over the place.
So I wrote about this, Bill, this week after Downs got hurt, that I thought the Colts wide receiver depth has kind of passed the test during training camp, where last year, you think about it, the only depth the Colts really had at wide receiver was in the slot with Isaiah McKenzie behind Josh Downs, a guy who has some NFL experience. Otherwise, on the outside, I mean, DJ Montgomery battled his butt off last year, but he was a guy who didn't have a lot of NFL experience on the outside. You were playing, guys who didn't have that sort of cachet of NFL experience in those spots. This year, I think that hurry up thing is so interesting because in 23, the point I'm trying to make is you were like Pittman's your X, or Pittman's your Z, excuse me. Downs is your slot and Pierce is your X. And there wasn't a lot of interchangement between those guys because there wasn't another guy you could say that guy's going to go step in at the Z, the X, on the outside to allow one of those guys to kick inside. The hurry up thing is interesting because if you identify a matchup that you're like, that player's on the field and we think that's a liability, and we can get AD in the slot or we can get Pitt in the slot against that guy by going hurry up. That to me is just it's another kind of thing Shane Steichen can access as a play caller that's so important. And I never want to say that an injury is a good thing because the injury to Josh Downs is definitely like number one, not a good thing. He was having a great training camp. A guy who's the connection with Anthony Richardson was looking really, really good. But if AD Mitchell can go in and learn how to play the slot over the next couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they need him to do that for a play or two during the regular season, that's a tiny little edge that the Colts could get that they may not have had otherwise without, if Josh is in there, he's going to play the slot. We know that.
Exactly.
So this is sort of it's not like a good thing. It's sort of it's a bad thing, but there might be a bit of a silver lining in it.
Exactly. And I think if you could recognize a mismatch, saying that if you put AD in a slot or you put Pitt in a slot or something like that, and you can do it on a no huddle, basically they have to run their defense or they have to call timeout. And Shane is good at putting people in situations where they have to call timeout. So he'll do that in a heartbeat. So I think it would benefit the offense. I always said the more positions I knew to play, the more it's going to benefit me as going out there and performing and playing at a high level and helping the offense out. So I think if AD can learn the slot, understand the slot, and he has a skill set to do it, and everyone else can learn other positions as well, it's only going to help the offense. And the more you can do, the better it's going to be for the offense. And it's easier going to be for Shane to call plays and put you in positions to be successful.
All right, let's flip it over to the defense. I think Laiatu Latu is the story of this game for the first team defense. I guess outside of Kenny Moore the second, but it's sort of like, yeah, we know Kenny can do that, right? Like we know Kenny can take the ball away. He can be really physical. The play he had on, I think it was the tight end Dulcich, where he took him to the ground. Like we know Kenny can do that.
Right.
But Latu, he was only credited with one pressure in this game. And one tackle, but I felt like Bill, he was already just like a menace right off the bat. He talked after the game. Amanda Foster, my colleague at Colts.com, wrote about this, that he said it was a wake-up call his first snap because he got doubled. And he's like, okay. Like they already recognized, Denver already recognized this guy's really freaking good, and we need to have a plan for him right from the start. What did you see from Laiatu Latu just in his first NFL action, if it was only preseason?
The same things I saw in training camp. And that he had his motor didn't stop. He was getting after the quarterback, trying to put pressure on the quarterback, trying to get after him. He did get a pressure on the quarterback, but he carried over from what he was doing in practice, in training camp, and doing it in the game. And as I said before, I think he makes good use of his hands so much in regards to getting an offensive player's hands off of him, offensive tackle, offensive guard, whoever it may be, a back coming out to block him. He does a good job of getting the hands off him and getting around that edge. So it puts more pressure on that blocker to make sure they have to get a good block on him. And you know what? If they recognize how good he is and double team him right away, you know what? Maybe that will happen down the road. And then, you can expect DeForest Buckner, if he's playing, if he has one-on-one, or Grove, he's going to have one-on-one. These guys can have that one-on-one and get to the quarterback, and then there's problems. Then, okay, we got to double team DeForest now. Okay, well, someone else is going to be one-on-one. So that's what you want. You want guys that can put pressure on the quarterback and to get to him from all four positions up front, and that's what Gus likes. Gus likes for that front four to put some pressure on the quarterback, get to the quarterback, and hopefully cause havoc in the backfield.
All right, so I want to talk about the one pressure he was credited with, Bill, because I'm excited to go back and watch the film. But for our YouTube viewers, you look at my eyes going kind of up and down. It's because I'm watching the dots of it, the like the NGS tracking. But this goes to a conversation I had with Tony Sperano, actually, this week. Tony Sperano Jr., the Colts offensive line coach, where I kind of asked him after I was done, I'm doing something on Bernard Ryman. And when I was done, I was like, all right, so tell me what you've seen from Latu. And he told me that at the top of Latu's rushes, the way that he's able to flip his hips and still generate pressure, even if you think you routed him upfield, is remarkable. And I think that's what we saw in this play. He's going against Garrett Bowles, who's an 8-year veteran, really good left tackle in the NFL. This is toward the end of the first quarter. And he takes his outside rush path. Bowles routes him upfield. Bo Nix drops back. He's at about, let's see, this is about the 37-yard line. He took the snap at about the 42-yard line. He goes back to about the 47-yard line. And I think if you're Bo Nix, you're like, I got a deep drop, and Latu got routed upfield. Like, I'm good. And all of a sudden, here he comes off the edge. Like the way that he's able to still win at the top of his rush and flip his hips and generate pressure on Nix, who then has to step up. And he steps up kind of almost right into Adonai Mitchell. He has to rip a pass. It goes incomplete. This skill set that Latu has, is like, it is remarkable to see it play out in a live game. But like you said, Bill, what we saw out of him today is what we have seen during training camp. This is the guy that we have seen during camp. It showed up in this game. The moment, and I know it's just a preseason game, whatever. It's his first NFL game. That's still a moment. Was not too big for him. He's got a plan. He's got this kind of option rusher to him where he can access things as soon as he reads how the tackle is setting him. Nothing that he has done during the preseason, including in this game, Bill, has dissuaded me from thinking the Colts got a really, really good player at number 15 overall in the NFL draft.
Yes, they did. They got a real good player in there just to show. He just showed his athleticism out there in the football field. Like you said, if you're routing a guy upfield and the quarterback sees that and a good quarterback's going to step up, well, you might think, oh, well, Latu didn't get to him. Well, if he steps up and Grover's coming up the middle, he's gonna run into Big Grove.
Mm-hmm.
And I like our chances with Big Grove tackling someone. But also with Latu, like you said, those hips, that just shows how much athleticism he has as far as to get upfield, flip his hips, and still come. That motor, we talked about that motor, still get after the quarterback, still try to get the quarterback. So he's got his athleticism and the assets he has is going to help this team out, because I can see that he might not get the sacks, okay? But he's going to funnel that quarterback into guys that will get sacks, DeForest, Grove, whoever's up front, and maybe he might force him out the other side. It might be Quiddy, it might be Dyer, whoever might be on the outside, Tyquan, whoever might get a sack. So having Latu out there and showing what he can do, and I'm just happy that he took practice to the game. And that to me means a lot for a young guy to do that, because a lot of times in practice, you're comfortable after the first couple of practices. And then when you get to the game, we talked about the jitters of being anxious out there. You might not play as well, or you might not play as fast. I didn't see that from him today. I saw what he did in practice, carrying over to the game.
One other thing here on the defense, Bill, another rookie who took advantage of the opportunity presented in front of him, Micah Abraham. The strip that he had, where Shane Steichen described it, where he's on the other side of the field, right? This is on the far side of the field. And he's looking, and there's just this like kind of pile over there. And all of a sudden, there goes 33 down the field with the ball in his hands. Like that kind of play where you just sort of have this nose for the football. The first thing I thought about, Bill, is that looks like a guy who has takeaways in his bloodlines. Micah Abraham's father, Donnie,
yes,
led the NFL in interceptions. I think it was year 2000. He was a two-time Pro Bowl safety for the Buccaneers. His uncle, Tim Jennings, a former Colts draft pick, led the NFL in interceptions with the Chicago Bears in, I believe, 2022 or 2012, excuse me. This guy he's got like playmaking in his bloodlines. In college at Marshall, he had more interceptions, I believe, than any other player in FBS over the last 2 seasons. This guy he's got something to him. And he maybe a little undersized. Maybe that's why he went in the 6th round. But like, he just makes plays. And today, right off the bat, we saw Micah Abraham go out there and make a play.
Yeah, takeaways must be in his bloodline there, because you know what? He did a nice job today. And when I saw the play, I didn't see the takeaway, actually. I just saw people running down the sideline. I thought, okay, maybe someone made a big play, a big hit or something like that. And I didn't know he had the ball at first. And then I see him running. I see guys chasing him. I said, oh, no, he must have took the ball away from someone. So nice play by the young man. It's nice to see young players make plays, because when you're out there as a young player, the one thing I was always taught when I first got in the league, make plays so the coaches notice you every time you go out there. Every time in practice, make a play so like they say, wow, okay, that guy made a play today. The next day, wow, he made another play today. And that's what Micah is doing right now, making a play in a game to make the coaches notice him that, hey, I can make plays out here. And the guy, I'm sure he's a little bit nervous first game, but he understands the game. He has it in his bloodlines to talk about his dad and talk about other relatives of his. He is going to be okay, I think, as far as that's concerned. So now all he has to do is go out there and execute, learn from the guys around him, learn from the veterans around him, the Kenny Moores that will help him. And I know Kenny's talked to him and helped him out and, make sure that he's in the right position and doing the right thing. So I think he'll be fine as long as he continues to make plays. He'll be okay.
Yeah, another really good story. Go ahead and read it on Colts.com about Micah Abraham, specifically with the relationship he has with Kenny Moore II and some thoughts Kenny had on Micah. That was written again by my colleague Amanda Foster. Go check that out on Colts.com. All right, one last thing, Bill, to get us out of here. We got to talk about the new kickoffs. This is like a little inside baseball, but I'm up there in the PA booth, and there were some kickoffs that I couldn't get everyone out, because usually it's like, okay, kicking off for the Colts, number 7, Matt Gay, back deep to receive for the Broncos, number 1, Trayvon Smith, and number 38, Jaleel McLaughlin. I got to announce 2 guys back there. The Colts did break one, though. We saw Anthony Gould rip off a real significant return. He got to the 49-yard line. On that play, by the way, I don't know if you saw the replay, Bill, but Tyree Cleveland, number 12, the Colts wide receiver, blocked his guy into another guy. So he basically blocked 2 guys at once to spring it to the outside. I had a conversation with Anthony after the game in the locker room where he said, yeah, it felt good, but we're still kind of working out how this is all going to work. He said we didn't really know what Denver was going to do with their coverage team, how they were going to play it, how we should block it. So I think this is still very much a kind of push and pull, you're feeling everything out type of thing. And teams aren't really showing anything. I mean, you saw kind of the usual, the high arcing kicks. You didn't see anything that was kind of funky in terms of trying to get something to hit a line drive into the landing zone. I think these joint practices this week are going to be big with Arizona to figure that out. But just in general, I think you saw Anthony Gould, the acceleration and then the long speed he has really show up on that play. That's one of the reasons why the Colts are so excited about the guy.
Yeah, I think you saw the skill he has in returning kickoffs with that young man, the speed he has, the quickness, the elusiveness that he has. So, that hopefully will benefit the Colts if he on kickoff returns. You want to get good field position. You get good field position, and then you have the offense that the Colts have with AR in the back there with JT and then the weapons outside. It makes it a little bit easier to go down and make some big chunk plays and score a little bit easier if you get good field position off a kickoff return. So I think, as you said, JJ, probably won't see a lot of different things. You probably see things that's going to be very vanilla. 1, because people don't want to show anything, and 2, because people are still learning. Everyone's still learning. All the teams are still learning how this is going to play out. But once you figure it out, then that's where you're going to see these exciting plays, the big plays. So at first it might be, it's good that you have a kickoff return now, but it might not be something that you're really excited about. But I think as the season goes along and the special team coaches figure things out and figure out what works best for them, I think you'll see some exciting plays on the kickoff return. And I expect Gould to have a big year this year in returning some kickoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be a copycat league with this thing. I think once you get to week 1, you're going to see some funky stuff. And once you get to week 8, you might see a completely different strategy from some team that another team goes, let's give that a shot with our personnel. And then by week 15, 7 teams in the league are doing the same thing, and it's all giving them a bit of an advantage. I mean, just thoughts and prayers to Brian Mason, the Colts special teams coordinator, because I don't know how he is going to be able to sleep this year with the amount of film there is to watch on this. Him and Joe Hastings and Izzy Diaz have their hands full this year. But Colts are in really good hands, by the way, with those 3 coaches. Brian Mason's a really creative guy coming from Notre Dame. Joe Hastings has been doing it for a while. Izzy Diaz, the Colts really value her input on special teams as well. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Instant Reaction here on the Colts Audio Network and on YouTube. We'll be back next week with a probably Sunday morning. I don't think, Bill, you and I are going to stay up late for a preseason game.
No.
Sorry to the Arizona Cardinals in that game. I don't think that's going to be a 2 a.m. taping of Instant Reaction. We'll be back on Sunday morning, though, with our recap of that game, again, on the Colts Audio Network and on YouTube. Until then, tune in to us here on the Colts Audio Network. A new episode of the official Colts podcast will drop on Tuesday. That is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Inside Football with Rick Venturi on Wednesday. The 2-Minute Drill podcast that I do with Amanda Foster, that'll be out on Thursday on the Colts Audio Network. Until then, Bill, it is a joy to be back with you here on Instant Reaction. This is the 4th season of this podcast. I love doing every one of these, even if we're spending 30 minutes talking about a preseason game. It is a blast doing this with you.
It's very fun and very knowledgeable. Thank you, JJ. I enjoy doing it with you as well.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week here on Instant Reaction on the Colts Audio Network. So long.